Hey, what's up guys, it's Modern Warfare here, Gamertag Manager Chicken, and welcome to another video. So in this video we're going to be burning XGD3 games, now, which is basically making copies of your Xbox 360 games that you can play in your flashed disk drives. So you do definitely need a flash drive to do this, and basically before we start I should try and cover myself in the whole copyright thing and say that this is for backup purposes, of course, for making backup copies of your original store-bought, legal copied games, so that if your original copy does get scratched or damaged, you'll be able to use your backup copies instead of having to buy another game. So I've got a lot to cover in this tutorial, so I'm not really going to be able to explain how to download all the games again. That was in my last tutorial on burning XGD2 games and older game security type games from 2005 to around about 2011, and then this tutorial is for games from 2011 to 2014 and onwards, because they all use XGD3 game type security, which basically adds an extra gigabyte of data onto the disk, which most DVD drive burners are unable to write to the edge of the disk, and that causes a lot of problems. So in order to do this, you're going to need, and I did not mean to open up Windows Media Player, so in order to do this you're going to need a compatible drive, and you're lucky that nowadays you've got the Burner Max payload tool, because when I first started burning XGD3 games I had to get an IHAZ drive because the Burner Max payload tool didn't exist. So the first thing you're going to need is a compatible drive. This is the drive I have, Lighton IHAZ 124B. If you have any of these drives, then you're going to be able to actually burn XGD3 games onto cheaper disk medium, whereas if you have any of these drives or any of these drives, then you're going to need verbatims, preferably verbatims. You're not going to have verbatims. Obviously some people are going to find certain other alternatives that work well for them. It really just depends on what disk drive you have, but these are the best quality. You need DVD+R dual layer, and the ones that are made in Singapore are supposedly the best. MK003 are the best verbatims that you can get, apparently. So if you're going to get a verbatim discs, then they are going to hopefully work perfectly for you. And I'm going to be burning onto Aone Plus discs. These are the discs I use for burning XGD2 and XGD3 games. But you're going to need to have one of the IHAZ B model drives up here if you're going to use cheap discs like Aone Plus and get them to work with XGD3 games. Okay, so now we've cleared that up. If you have one of the compatible drives, so any of the recommended ones or any of the working drives, or if your drive doesn't show up on any of these lists, then you can try the Burner Max payload tool anyway. So go ahead, open this. This will be in the description, and this is the tool that's going to load the Burner Max firmware onto your disk drive. So as you can see here, if you put in a verbatim disk, dual layer disk, it should automatically tell you whether Burner Max is enabled or not. If it is enabled, the free space should be 8,7, which is 8.7 gigs. If Burner Max is not enabled, it will be 8,5 for 8.5 gigabytes. And if it does say 8,5, then you're going to click Auto, which will set the Burner Max firmware to work on your drive all the time, and click the Burner Max button, and it should eventually, might do a bunch of stuff and say Burner Max is enabled, and it should change the size now to 8,7. If it doesn't, if it fails, then you're going to have to get a new DVD drive. If you want to burn XGD3 games, you're going to have to get one of the recommended drives or one of the working drives. And obviously if you have one of these not working drives, then you're going to have to get one of the working ones, obviously. Okay, so when you have Bernamax on your drive, and if you do have an iHas124B or any iHasB model drive like these ones, Bernamax should be on it to begin with anyway. You shouldn't even need to use the Bernamax payload tool. Okay, so now you need to get yourself a game that you're going to burn, an XGD3 game. I'm going to be using Black Ops 2 as an example, and I don't really have time in this tutorial to go through how to download the games, so I'm just going to quickly tell you. You can search up on Google for the name of the game, type in Xbox 360 ISO, download, try and find a download for it. If you have premium on RyuShare, OTE Upload and Netload.in, then you should be able to download them from Xbox360ISO.com. If not, you can try the Pirate Bay. Make sure you have uTorrent or something that you can use to download them. And if the Pirate Bay is blocked in your country, then use ukbay.org, which is a proxy website that will load a proxy and get you onto the Pirate Bay. And yeah, so when you have a game downloaded, it should look like this. It may be in different parts that you need to extract. So if it comes in like 8 parts, then right click part 1, extract it, make sure you have WinRAR, and it will extract it into these 2 files. You'll have a disk image file and just an image file. And if you don't have the 1 kilobyte one, it doesn't really matter because we'll be running it through ABGX360, which will create one if one doesn't already exist. And if you're still confused about how to get the games and stuff, then I recommend you go watch my previous disk burning tutorial for XGD2 games and older game security, because I go into downloading a bit more detail than I do in this video. So anyway, when you have a game, the XGD3 game, disk image file like Black Ops 2 or COD Ghosts or whatever, then you need to go ahead and open ABGX360, which will also be in the description. Make sure this program's connected to the internet, so just make sure you're connected to the internet and you'll be able to go and use this program, because if it's not connected to the internet, it won't be able to download any missing files. So go over to Autofix and set this to level 3. Click the browse button to open your disk image file, and then go ahead and click the launch button. And it's going to go through, as you can see here. It had to download the data, had to download some data here, topology data. And if this wasn't connected to the internet, it wouldn't be able to download that data. So make sure it is definitely connected. So what you're looking for here is most of the stuff to be green. You need to make sure that the basic stealth check passes. You need to make sure that all of these CRC matches. You need to make sure the DMI is valid, the SS is valid, the topology data needs to be verified. That's not entirely important. You just got to make sure it's the correct region as well. So if you live in Europe, then you need to make sure you've got like a PAL version of the game or a region-free version of the game like this one. If you live in the US, you need to make sure you have a region-free version or an NTSC version of the game. So it's checking this game CRC. You just wait for this to finish. It probably fail. Actually, this one, everything was fine, but it won't necessarily be fine. You might get red saying that something didn't verify. That doesn't really matter. As long as you've got the basic stealth check passing and all the CRCs matching, then you're fine. If you've got any red text coming up, some things that are missing, or just something that's corrupt, or something, some red text in there, then what you can do is, once this is finished, you can exit, click launch a second time and see if it's fixed the problem, because it might have fixed the problem that was there the first time. If it hasn't, if you're still getting red, then look up the problem online or just download another ISO. Okay, so once you've done that, we can then go into image burn to burn the disk. Click write image file to disk. Click this button to browse for a file. We're looking for the ISO again. Actually, this time we're looking for the image file, which is just a the 1 kilobyte file, not the 8 gigabyte ISO file. We're just looking for the small 1 kilobyte file here. Okay, so now you want to set the write speed to 2.4. Now here is the thing about the different disks. If you're using a Verbatim, which I have in the tray at the moment, I've got a Verbatim disk in here made in Singapore. If we scroll down, it says MKM003. Those are the best Verbatims that you can get, best quality. But you also want to check the write speed. So if you're using a Verbatim, it should have 2.4 times in there. Sometimes you can write at 4 times speed with these disks on XGD3 and it will burn perfectly fine. However, it is safer to go with a lower write speed, so go for 2.4, that's what I would recommend. Now, unlike the XGD2 tutorial where we could just go ahead and write the disk, with these disks, with XGD3 games, we have to adjust a lot of the settings inside image burn here. So we're going to click on Tools and we're going to go down to Settings. Then we're going to go over to the Write button, the Write tab. And we need to make sure that some people put Perform OPC before Write. Now often that can fail, so I always turn that off. So it's really, you know, you can turn it on, turn it off, that's up to you. I would recommend you turn it off though. You need to make sure that Enable Burn Proof is unchecked normally with Verbatims. Calculate Optimal, make sure that's on. In the I/O tab, you want to go to page 2. You want to make sure the buffer size is set to the max, which is 512 meg. You want to make sure the main threshold, device threshold, is also on 100%. Transfer length automatic, average disk query length, I'm going to put that to the maximum as well. Go back to the Write tab, just double check that all of this is correct. Yep, that looks fine, so we just click OK. Then we're going to go down to the advanced settings, click on light on. If you have a light on drive, you need to make sure that force hypertuning is, well, the thing is it can change. Most people have this enabled. And click change, it should say success. Go down to online hypertuning, make sure that's enabled. Success. Go down to overspeed, make sure that is disabled, not enabled. You want that off. Smart burn, make sure that's enabled. Clear OPC history, you may want to make sure that that is cleared. And make sure verify is not ticked, because it's a waste of time verifying. And once you have all of those settings, you just click the Write button and it will start writing the disk. Okay, so that's what you do for Verbatim disks. So if you're using Verbatim disks, that's the end of the tutorial for you guys. Thanks for watching. Now for people with IHAZ drives who want to use cheaper disks like Aone Plus, because these disks are much cheaper, just don't go for the printable ones. As I said in my last tutorial, those are bad. But if you go for the gold edition, they should be fine. So much cheaper, like a pack of 50 for £10. I mean, that is really cheap. So what I'm going to do is eject the disk tray, take my Verbatim out, and put an Aone Plus disk in instead. Okay, I got an Aone disk in here now that's just loading up. We can keep the settings the same as I did for the Verbatims. Obviously, again, you can still change them to adjust it to your preferences. So the problem with this, as you can see, is the supported write speeds on the Aone disks, if you're using an IHAZ 124B or an IHAZ B model drive, is you've only got 4 times speed, 6 times speed, and 8 times speed. Now for disks like these that are much cheaper, burning at 4 times is too fast and you're not going to get a good burn on it with an XGD3 game at that kind of speed. You need it to burn at 2.4 times. But even if you set it to 2.4 times and write, because it's not supported, it will defaultly set it to 4 times. So what we have to actually do is change the firmware on the drive to support 2.4 instead of 4, 6, and 8. So this is only for people who have IHAZ B model drives, as I should make that clear. And it's not just for Aone discs, for Memorex discs and other cheap media as well that don't support 2.4 speed. So what we're going to do, what we're gonna need is the firmware for the drives, the Burner Max firmware itself, which I'll put in the description to a place where you can download it. So as you can see, we've got the firmware for the IHAZ 124B, 224B, 324B, 424B, 524B, 624B. So if you have any of these drives, you'll be able to do this to get it to write at 2.4 speed. So I have a 124B drive, so I've got the firmware here. And what we're going to do is open up a program called Media Code Speed Edit. Make sure you run this as administrator as well if you don't have UAC disabled. And what we're going to do is click the load button, and that's going to load the firmware. So select the Burner Max firmware for your drive 124B. Going to open that up, and it's going to list all the write speeds for all the different media. So if you're using Aone Plus discs, then they're made by RICOHGPN. So these are the Aone Plus ones, as you can see, times 4, times 6, times 8, like it said in ImageBurn. So if you have anything else, I think, I can't remember, I think, is it RITEK for Memorex discs, I think. You just have to check the manufacturer on the disc. It'll say on ImageBurn what company it is. So this is Aone discs, so we just double click the write speed, and it will say sort of what write speed you want to replace it with. So make sure it's from the same company and choose the 2.4 one. So I'm going to select the 2.4 one, click OK, yes, and that is going to change the firmware to 2.4 instead of 4, 6, and 8. So now I'm just going to save that to a new place on the drive. I'll just save it into the IHAZ drive folder here. Wait for that to finish. Okay, so now that we have got that, we've got it in here, our firmware, you'll see at the end of the title it will say speed patched. So what we're going to do now is open up the flash utility, because we need to flash this modified firmware to our IHAZ drive. Now this will also be included, of course, with the firmware itself. Now you're going to click write flash. Now bear in mind that this isn't going to work if the SATA port in your computer does not support drive flashing. If it doesn't support drive flashing, you'll click the write button and the bar will load just a little bit, and then it will say that it failed to write the flash. So you need to make sure you have your SATA cable that's connected to your IHAZ drive. It needs to be plugged into a SATA port that can flash the drive. My ones on my motherboard are color coded. I've got 8 SATA ports in my motherboards. 6 of them, well, 4 of them are light blue. 2 of them are white, which are 6 GB SATA ports, and then there's 2 dark blue SATA ports in the computer, which are for drive flashing. I can flash it when it's connected to those ports, but I can't flash it if it's connected to any of the other ports. So make sure it's connected to a port where you can flash. Click write flash. It's going to give you a bunch of warnings because you are flashing modified firmware to the drive. So just click yes to proceed and it will start writing. Okay, and now it says the flash write is complete. Now I would recommend restarting your computer after you do this. I'm not going to do that because I've not got much time left in this tutorial. We're running it, cutting it quite finely as it is. But yeah, you want to restart your computer, then open up ImageBurn. And now the discs that were saying 4 times, 6 times and 8 times, now says supported write speed 2.4, and you can set it to 2.4 and it will write at a lower write speed, giving you better burn results. So if we open up that again, just make sure that all the settings are pretty much the same as the verbatims, because when you write new firmware to the drive, it's going to reset all of these settings. So with Aone Plus anyway, force hypertuning, enable it. If it doesn't work when it's enabled, try it with it disabled. I actually have better results with force hypertuning disabled on Aone Plus discs. I always have online hypertuning enabled. I have overspeed disabled, smart burn, I have it enabled. Clear OPC history, I make sure that is cleared. And smart burn we want enabled, clear OPC history want cleared. Then in the tools settings, I seem to get better results with burn proof enabled on Aone discs. Uncheck perform OPC, make sure calculate optimal. I/O, main buffer on max. Sometimes I get better results with this being on 25 and this on 50, and that's it. Just click OK and go ahead and write your disk at 2.4 speed. So that is it, guys. Just before I go, I know I'm going to get lots of comments of people having problems burning disks because they're using different disk drives and different types of disks. So I can't give you any sort of help with any different discs other than Aone and Verbatim, because I haven't tried any other media, because Aones are the cheapest and they work fine for me. But if you are getting problems, then just bear in mind to try it with hypertuning on and hypertuning off. Try sometimes enabling burn proof or disabling it. Same with smart burn, try it with it enabled, try it with it disabled. You just got to mix the settings up until you can find the correct settings for you. And of course, if your Xbox is having trouble playing them, it's always a good idea to check the laser head. Sometimes the laser head might have a thin layer of dust on it, and that can prevent it from reading copied games very well and giving disk unreadable messages when there actually isn't anything wrong with the quality of the disk in the first place. So sometimes it's a good idea to clean the disk laser with a little Q-tip or something, get the dust off there. But yeah, that's all I can recommend for now. So thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Comment if you have any questions. Like the video if you liked it. And I will hopefully see you guys in my next video.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.